Survey crowns. In the earlier lectures, when we introduced the surveyor and the surveyings, I already talked about the reason we do a survey is because we need to find the undercut for the direct retainer of the RPD framework. And before we found the undercut, then we have to able to locate the hive contour. So that's why we need to do a survey before we do a framework. So today we will discuss about another issue related to a survey is the survey crowns. So when to choose survey crowns? Sometimes some teeth will need the creations of undesirable tooth contour, which means that you want to have undercut on the tooth, but the tooth morphology is not really able to achieve that. Even you do some enamelplasty or tooth modification, you're still not able to achieve that. Then the only way is to make a crown, then to reshape the contour of the tooth. The second common reason to choose the survey crown is that the tooth really need a crown, and the tooth location will be the abutment tooth of the RPD. So sometimes some teeth maybe have a caries, or maybe they have a fractured teeth part, so you will need a crown to reinforce the structure. And sometimes it happens is that when patient lost a tooth for a long time, the occlusal plan is not ideal. So you want to reshape the occlusal plan and with a survey crown. One of the common errors happens in the treatment sequence, especially when you do a survey crown with a removable partial denture, is that you do a diagnosis, you determine the need of a RPD and crown, and then you started with the crown. After you finish your crown, then you started to think about your RPD design and then finish your RPD. That's a huge mistake. The real treatment sequence should be you do a diagnosis, so you determine the need of the removable partial denture and the survey crown. Then you have to come out with the RPD design. You have to determine what's a proper RPD design, so then you can come out the proper survey crown design to accommodate with the RPD fabrication. Then, after you have those informations, then you started with the survey crown and finish the RPD. So the common error in the treatment sequence is to finish the crown prep and finish the crown delivery without the RPD design. That's why in the UDM dental clinic, any RPD related treatment should be started after the RPD preliminary survey and design form approved by the faculty. So this rule also applies to the survey crown. So when you're into the third and fourth year, when you deal with the RPD cases, if you need a survey crown, you should have RPD preliminary survey and design form be approved by the faculty before you start the crown prep. Now we will talk about the treatment sequence related to the survey crown and the RPD. So first, we should do a diagnosis. The second is to do a survey and develop RPD design. Then we have to do a survey crown preparation and final impression. Then you send to a lab, ask them to pour out the Pindex model, and then you do a tripoding again. Later, you send the tripoding model to the lab, ask them to do a survey crown. Then you deliver the survey crown. Finally, you started your RPD procedure. A very common question that I work with your seniors when we deal with survey crown and RPD in the clinic is that, so how about the survey crown preparation? Are they different from the regular crown preparations? Actually, the answer is almost the same as you know for the crown or bridge preparations. The margin preparations also related to the material you're going to choose for the patients. So if you already prep those transverse, shoulder, or the heavy transverse in the sim lab, all the concept will be the same. The only difference is that on the occlusal reductions, because we need to accommodate a little bit more component on the crown, so the occlusal reduction will need more. That's probably the only difference from the survey crown preparation to the regular crown preparations. So let's talk about or look at what the survey crown looks like. So on the left side, you can see a partial denture actually is resting on the natural teeth and the crown. So we already mentioned that on the framework of the RPD, you have a rest C, you have a direct retainer and indirect retainer. So you can see that those rest actually is resting on the crown. So you have to have those space to accommodate the rest on the framework. That's why we said you should have a rest seat. So right now you make a survey crown. The survey crown also need to have a rest seat to accommodate your rest design. So when we look at the occlusal design for the survey crown, that ideally is to make a metal occlusal rest seat to accommodate the framework rest. I'm not saying that the PFM, the porcelain part, will not be able to be a rest seat area design. However, in the UDM dental clinic, that we will more likely you use a metal occlusal because they will avoid the porcelain fractures in the future. And when we talk about occlusal reductions, that if you use a metal occlusal rest seat design, at least you will need 2 mm occlusal reductions. So that's a huge difference from the original 0.5 mm metal occlusal reductions that you learn from the crown or the bridge. It's because we not just only need the space for the metal, we also need the space for the RPD framework rest seat design. So if you already remember that we already discussed the occlusal rest seat, we talk about the depths. On the depth, we say the reduction of the marginal ridge is approximately 1.5 millimeters. So if you count 1.5 at 0.5 millimeters, so totally you will need 2 millimeters occlusal reductions, even you do a metal occlusal design for your survey crown. That's why if you want to use a porcelain as your occlusal design, then you will need more. And you may have, the problem is that after you get those occlusal reductions, that the pulp is easier to expose and patient may easier to feel sensitivity. That's also the other reason that we will more likely you use a metal occlusal rest seat design in the dental clinic. Then the other common questions comes out in the clinic is that how do I know I already have 2 mm occlusal reductions? Sometimes you can use a probe to measure. That's why you learned from the SynLab. However, when you really see a patient, you'll find out it's so difficult to use a probe to measure on the lingual cusp because you are not easier to approach that when patient is occluded. So the ideal way is to use those like articulating paper or shim stock. First of all, we have to know how the thickness of each of a different material. So we know that the shim stock is the most thinnest like a material that we can get from the clinic. It's 8 micrometers. And the vacuum film 2 is the articulating papers that we use in the dental school. That's a 21 microns. Even that's similar on the red and blue one, you still will see the other brands articulating papers, they make up to 40 microns. So before you really started to use articulating papers, you have to check with the manufacturer's instruction to understand what the thickness that you are really used for, even it looks like the same. So if we already know the vacuum film 2 that we use most commonly in the clinic is 21 microns. And right now we want to get 2 mm reductions, which means that that's a 2000 microns. So we know that's a 95 times to the vacuum film. It's impossible for us to just add 95 layers of vacuum film to articulating paper together. That's to waste the material. So, ideally is that you can get 3 articulating papers and then fold it to 5 times. They will be close to 2 millimeters thickness. And then you can use that to check if you have enough occlusal reductions, especially for your resi preparation. After that, then in the clinic, you will started to use a PVS, which we use the Kerr, or you can use the other brand maybe in the future, and then you take an impression. All the impression criteria will be the same as you learned from the crown and bridge. So you still need to have intact margins and no bubble over the axial and occlusal wall, then to fabricate the cast. After you got a very good final impressions, then you will send your impression to the lab to ask them to do a Pindex model pull-out. The only difference from the survey crown to a natural crown is that you have to ask the lab to return the Pindex model back to you for you to do a surveying and tri-budding the model by yourself. You're not just able to ask the lab technicians to directly finish the crown, because you have to tell the lab how to orient your die models. And the build-up pass of insertions on the survey and tri-budding should be as the same as when you do your diagnostic surveying. So it means that after you finish your crown, all the rest seat or the undercut location could be accommodated with your original design. And that's the reason why you just only can do this by yourself. Couldn't be done by the lab technician because you have to control the path of insertion by yourself. So this is the laboratory note that you will use for the survey crown cast pour out. Like I said earlier, the only difference is that in the end, you ask them to return the cast for the tri-budding. Please always remember to do a surveying and tri-budding by yourself when you do a real case. After you finish your tri-budding, then you will send to a lab again. Ask them to finish the survey crown. This is a laboratory note for a surveyed PFM crowns with a metal occlusal design. So in the school that we will ask you to have a specific form to finish the lab order in case you mix any important informations. And right here you can see that we will ask you to add a note about what's a alloy you're going to use, what's a ceramic material you're going to use, and then you will describe your crown design. So the first is the same as the regular crown. You have to tell the lab what's your occlusal design, what's your marginal design. The difference was started with that you have to incorporate the survey crown design into a lab order. So first of all, you have to tell the lab where's your undercut and what's the depth of the undercut you would desire to have. And also you have to mention the rest seat design and location. The last one will be the guide point locations. So you have to provide those details to the lab technician so they can use your info to make a survey crown followed by your instruction. One most common error happens in the clinic is that you make an appointment with a patient and patient already asks a day off in the clinic, and then you just open the box from the lab and then you found out the crown is wrong. So please, before you do a crown delivery appointment, please check the margin thickness on the die model. Check the crown shade. Make sure the crown is really fit with the model and the crown shade is as you instructed. The second is to check the crown design followed by the tripoding. So just put the crown back to the die model and really follow the tripodings on the surveyor and to check if the crown guide plane is parallel to each other and if the undercut locations and the amount of undercut is really the same as you request. For example, if you do a crown on tooth number 4 and you ask a mesial buccal undercut with 0.1 inch undercut, then you should able to find it on the surveyor. If it's not, that means that the surveyor crown is not really followed by your design. And the last is to be sure that the rest seat positions is really followed by your instructions. Sometimes we ask for the mesial occlusal rest seat in the note, but we found out that the lab technician just mistakenly put that on the distal. That also means that the crown is not able to use for the patient. So you have to check all the above before the patient appointment. Be professionally to check that so you won't have a patient already have a day off and then come to the clinic but you're not able to do anything because the crown design is wrong. So if you found out any above criteria is not really followed, you will have to return to a lab technician as soon as possible. The last will be if everything is fine, then you will start to follow the routine crown delivery procedure, just like to check the proximal contact, to check the crown margin thickness with the x-ray, and to check the occlusal contact with the articulating paper, as you've been told in the crown and bridge lectures. The final questions or final errors that are easier to happen is that you plan to do RPD final impression at the same time. The problem is, remember, because you deliver a crown, and so the crown is used as cement to cement it on the tubes. And we do know that in the first 24 hours, the cement retention actually will change, and after 24 hours, they will become more stable. So it means that if you right away to take impressions after you cement the crown, when you try to pull the impression out of the mouth, you might also give the force to pull the crowns out. So you might affect the seating of your margin of the crown. So please, just plan your RPD final impression at least 24 hours after crown cementation. I always suggest your seniors to say that you probably want to make 2 different appointments. One is to deliver a crown, one is to do your RPD final impression with RPD tooth preparation, because they'll be more easier for you to accommodate with the time and you won't feel so stressful to finish your work at the same time.